Place to Be Nation, welcome back to the great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. We're co-host Justin Rosero, coming to you here from the PTB studios on this Monday. Joining me as always is my PIC, Mr. Scott Criscollo. Scotland, how are you?
Good evening, JR, PTB Wrestling Network, and those on the No-So on YouTube. Welcome to episode 649 of the longest running episodic motherfucking gold standard. Dusty Happy. My son, top of the mountain, baby. My son,
man,
on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
About time. Story's been told. Yeah, Philly was awesome. We talked about it in the last show. And now we look ahead because all the shows are out of the country. PTB tailgate in Lyon. Dip our fries in mayo.
Maybe we'll get a little tag teams back again, or Marty Slew, little Ricky Martello, wee. But yeah, we are here as my well-regarded podcast partner just said. We are audio on the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed and video on the North South Connection on YouTube. And I think on the Place to Be Nation YouTube as well now, I believe. We're up on there too, if you check it out.
Yep, so, on both.
We're everywhere. Check us out. We appreciate you being with us. And here in our new format, Making Towns, we get a lot of nice positive feedback, which we appreciate. And I think it's been a nice little change, Scott. I've been digging it for sure. And the gentleman we have with us tonight has been with us in the past, and he slogged through some of those old MSGs, and I think he's maybe on one of the Survivor Series Showdowns or something like that back in the past. SummerSlam Spectacular, one of those. You can hear him across our networks on multiple shows, including with you on Wrestle Tracks, I believe. Am I right on that?
Yep.
Okay,
Correct.
I'm not too out of touch. And that is our good friend, Mr. Greg Diener. Greg, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, Justin, Scott. It's a really great time. The story's been finished, but now the next chapter begins. But until then, we got to talk about my neck of the woods here in the LI.
Yes.
We are excited to dive in. I feel like it may be, I don't know, the biggest match, Scott, we probably covered to date. We've kind of been off the beaten path a little bit for a lot of these so far. This is probably our biggest marquee match. But Greg, before we get into this, why don't you tell us what you picked and why you picked?
Okay, well, for this, I picked SummerSlam 2002. And I think the reason why I picked this is because, well, I don't really want to pick anything from WrestleMania 2 since I covered that on my podcast. And do you really want to hear Susan St. James say, 50,000 times?
Oh, George.
Oh, George.
Oh, and she does the back-to-back matches because you get George Steele and George Wells.
George Wells.
Yeah, you get both. You get O George multiple times.
Oh, God. So many O Georges. Yeah.
But for SummerSlam 02, there were like 3 matches that you could pick, probably. Ray and Kurt, Rock and Brock, and this. And the reason why I chose this is because this was kind of like a big deal. Shawn's coming back for the first time in 4 years, and he's got a grudge to settle with Triple H.
Yep. All right. And we're going to die. Now, were you at this show?
No, I was not. Okay. I wish I was.
You are from Long Island, as was the show. So that's why we are using it here tonight on this episode. So SummerSlam 2002 took place October. I'm sorry, Jesus. Too many months, too many days. August 25th, 2002. So, Scott, why don't we dial back into that week in history of wrestling from the 18th to the 25th? What was going on this week in wrestling history?
All right. Well, obviously no house shows because we're all in Long Island. The only other companies that are going on at the moment, of course, 2 of them started up earlier this year. You had, obviously, TNA started at the time, NWA/TNA. They were in between episodes 10 and 11 of their show. Of course, they were weekly at the time. So they started in, June 19th, was episode number 1. So they were in between episodes 10 and 11 on this Sunday. So episode 10, it was every Wednesday, $10 a head, and they would go until, was it 2004?
Yeah, right around the time the FSN era started.
Yeah, so probably, I think it was mid.
There's some crossover. There's definitely some crossover in there for a little bit. I know there's the pay-per-views while they're starting on Impact, and I think they don't wrap up the weekly pay-per-views until they start the monthly ones, which is in 04.
Right. Yeah. So, but we do have two shows I wanted to mention. One happened the night before this show, and one that happened that I was at the night after this show, which is very historic for me personally. So the other company that launched in 2002 was Ring of Honor, which of course started back, I think, in February. So on the night before this show, on August 24th, 2002, we had a show called Honor Invades Boston, which took place at the AmeriCal Civic Center in Wakefield, Mass.
No,
Do you feel like have we been to something in Wakefield? Do we have a John?
No.
Do we watch a John match in Wakefield? No, I feel like we were.
No, which is okay.
We've been to Malden. We did the show in Malden. I remember that.
Yeah, not been a Wakefield kid.
Yeah,
not for a show anyway. Yeah, I don't think it's like the. It's okay. I think it's an okay place, but I don't think it's anywhere probably.
No,
want to hang out in.
No. I do miss Kowloon's. So here was your card. The Amazing Red in TNA pinned Quiet Storm with a Red Star press at 606. Joel Maximo, Jose. Oh God, a bunch of TNA guys here. The Maximo
Amazing
brothers.
Red at GCW, by the way, in Philly. So there you go.
Yeah,
Still around.
I know, right?
Still around.
Yep. The Maximo brothers and Chris Devine defeated Izzy Dixie and Brian XL in a scramble match when Joel pinned Brian XL with the Spanish Fly at 9:12. Your World Heavyweight Champion Loki defeated Chris Devine in a non-title match with the Dragon Sleeper at 55 seconds. Not the last time we would see him tonight. Mace and Buff E, managed by Allison Danger, defeated Dunn and Marcos when Mace pinned Marcos after a reverse electric chair vertical splash combo at 3:43.
AC isn't managed by Diddy like the other Mace. It could have been a problem.
I know, yes. Scoot Andrews pinned Mike Tobin with Danny Drake with a force of nature at 203. Xavier, our pal,
our buddy,
Xavier,
the late Xavier.
The late Xavier, pinned Scoot Andrews with a 450 splash at 405. Michael Shane with Biohazard pinned Paul London with Rudy Boy Gonzalez with a small package at 12:45.
I was with Biohazard the other weekend, D'Amato, right? I was with him.
That's right, yeah. He's Biohazard every day. After the match, Simply Luscious, that's D'Amato's other name, offered a spot in the Prophecy to Shane. Shane declined and hit the super kick on both Simply Luscious and Rudy Boy. He then, alongside Biohazard, double-teamed London. Brian Danielson fought Donovan Morgan to a 15-minute time limit draw. Probably a good match. Mafia and Monster Mac, not Monster Mac Truck, defeated HC Loke and Tony DeVito. There you go, JR. In a Boston Massacre match when Mafia pinned Loke after a burning hammer at 11:04.
There's a lot going on here.
I know. This must have been a taping or something because there's a lot of the same guys wrestling. Biohazard pinned Don Juan, all these D'Amato nicknames, after a teardrop suplex at 2:12. Alex Arian pinned Maverick Wild with a victory roll at 5:49. Homicide and Boogaloo defeated Tony Mamaluke and James Maritato. There you go, JR. A couple more of your faves. When Homicide pinned Mamaluke after the cop killer at 12:32. Little Guido. Mark Briscoe pinned Jay Briscoe with a cutthroat driver at 16:54. I wonder if this is the same match that Steve Willie and I did on an episode of Pod of Honor. I feel like we did a tribute episode on Jay Briscoe after his death. I feel like this was a match we did. It's actually Mark's first match. So, and in the main event, as mentioned, probably the highlight match of the night, our ROH heavyweight champion Loki defeated AJ Styles with the Key Crusher at 1948. So that was probably a banger, most likely. A lot of TNA guys in that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of crossover early with those two promotions.
Yeah, well, obviously neither of them had a ton of money, so they needed to make a little scratch. All right, so then of course on the next night was the show we're talking about tonight, SummerSlam 02. The next night, Raw was at Madison Square Garden, but SmackDown, the SmackDown half, had a show which turned out to be the final show ever at my beloved New Haven Coliseum.
Oh,
It closed the next day. By this point in 2002, the arena, at the time Harbor Yard Arena, now it's the Total Mortgage Arena in Bridgeport, Habby Yad, has been open for about a year. So obviously nicer arena, brand new, and the Coliseum was pretty much falling apart. So this was the last show, and they were obviously a bastion of wrestling for 30 years at that point. I had been to many a show between 1980 2006 and 2002. This is the last one. Here was the card. Tajiri pinned Funaki with a kick to the head. Devon Dudley pinned Randy Orton when a crossbody off the top by Orton put Devon on top for the win. Hardcore Holly pinned Albert with the Alabama Slam. Batista pinned Bull Buchanan. How about that for a meat slap fest right there?
Dear God.
The Hurricane and Shannon Moore beat Billy and Chuck when Hurricane pinned Gunn with the choke slam. Chris Benoit defeated Rikishi via submission with the crippler crossface in a Kiss My Ass match.
Oh, wow.
Tori Wilson, I do remember this very well. Tori Wilson defeated Dawn Marie in a bra and panties match. Nidio was the guest referee.
Ooh.
Your cruiserweight champion, Jamie Noble, defeated Billy Kidman without the fleas. And Chavo Jr. by pinning Kidman with a backslide with his feet on the ropes. Matt Hardy pinned John Cena with the twist of fate. And the final match ever, and I remember this being an absolute banger, great match to end the legacy of the New Haven Coliseum. Edge and Rey Mysterio defeated Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero when Edge pinned Angle with the spear.
That's pretty sweet. And that's not the usual team of the SmackDown 6. That's
no.
Right, because it would have normally been like Kurt and Benoit.
It was Kurt and Benoit, yeah, but Benoit was in the singles. Edge and Rey, of course, and they hadn't even started the pairing off yet. That didn't, I don't think, start till after Unforgiven, because No Mercy is when they do the finals of the tag, when Stephanie starts the blue tag belts. So anyway, memorable weekend for WWE. You had SummerSlam at Long Island. Raw was at the Madison Square Garden, and then that same night, the SmackDown half was at my New Haven Coliseum. The place would stay open or not open, but would be abandoned and empty for 5 years before finally being demolished in January of 2007. I was there I was standing at the Temple Street garage across the street.
Rotella wasn't inside.
Yeah, I know. He probably would have stayed in the bathroom. My brother and I were at the Temple Street garage, January of 2007. It was damn cold, and we saw the Coliseum drop. So there are your memorable shows on this weekend in late August of 2002. So with that said, I'm sure many of you are probably wondering, wasn't Herb MIA in 2002? Because obviously he couldn't find a CNWA reunion show. So, but JR, I seem to think we may have the last lighting up of the.
Yeah. Greg, did you have something? Were you trying to cut in there for a second?
Oh, I wanted to say something about the New Haven Coliseum. I find it very impressive that in the next to last match ever at the New Haven Coliseum, Matt Hardy wrestled nobody. He just wrestled in air.
That's pretty funny.
Oh god, that's funny.
Well, listen, speaking of unhinged and things that should be blown up, I was sent these pictures today. This is unhinged right here.
Oh my god!
Ugh, good lord. Good lord.
Oh my!
It's like the time. It's like 29. That was ridiculous.
That shirt pretty much goes with the face. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's dive in. We do, in fact, have the last days of Herb Coons, at least per this rspw.org database. So we're going to read two. They're not particularly close to SummerSlam, but the last two we have. So why not do it? June 27th, 2002. When the World Wrestling Federation was forced by court ruling to leave the WWF abbreviation to the World Wildlife Fund, Vince McMahon and other key decision makers in sense missed the boat when it came to renaming the mother promotion of rebranded TV products to World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE. Based on the booking of TV the past couple weeks, it sure seemed like it would have been far clearer to fans who wondered how a split brand TV shows would be booked to just revert to one of the promotions to WCW. For a long while now, the hierarchy of WWF roster has been carefully controlled by a few self-protecting and subversive wrestlers. And that was before the master of the fine art, Hulk Hogan, arrived and worked his magic as only he can. There were rare times a young guy had the chance to get over like a Chris Jericho, or seemed to already be over with the fans like a Rob Van Dam. Things somehow came together in a way to minimize or totally undermine the chance of success. In Jericho's case, the WrestleMania storyline amazingly spent more time putting over Stephanie versus Triple H than the world champion who served as window dressing on TV leading up to the show. Some people suggested that Jericho's booking leading to Mania was a compliment since he was clearly booked similarly to Ric Flair in the 80s. Flair stayed over as a star, even as promotion tanked because of the very booking the WWF has emulated. The difference, of course, is that Flair was already accepted as a great star. Jericho doesn't have that credibility. With less TV in the Flair era, there's also less chance of overexposure. In Van Dam's case, a lot of attention has been paid to how sloppy he can be, even though many other guys who have far less going for them have been pushed higher more quickly. But none of those other guys really had Van Dam's potential to supplant the others. And that was WWF's problem. There's only a few top spots, and the guys in those spots don't want to lose the money the top spots bring. So each of those guys manufacture their own problem of self-preservation. One wants an opponent with whom he can draw good money to up the bonuses, but doesn't want an opponent who could come away from the marriage elevated to the point to take one of the spots. And so on occasion, a recent past, an intelligent viewer could easily think WCW while watching these shenanigans. The rebranding was supposed to alleviate the problem. In essence, the WWF would consist of two promotions. The pay-per-views have dual main events. The guys who were suffering from strategic booking manipulations of Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker would seemingly have a better chance of getting into meaningful pushed matches. Sure, Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash came in, so the measure of manipulation increased. Amazingly, those five guys, each looking out for their own, the younger, better workers actually thought they may get a meaningful push. Anyone who might look at history will get a contrary conclusion, will be reminded that Vince McMahon doesn't tolerate egos. The difference between WWF and WCW is management. That hardly explains the miscues of Jericho and Van Dam. We'll get to your thoughts in a minute, but I thought Herb closes pretty poignant thoughts here from Herb in his final days. Speaking for myself, what was once an occasional hint of WCW egos crushing the great workers has been replaced by this show feels like Nitro near the end. Consider these pieces of booking. Steve Austin is sent away by Ric Flair, who announces that Austin won't be wrestling on the show. The commentators reinforce things by telling us that Austin has indeed left the building. Ratings plummet. In theory, it seemed like a fresh idea to set up an Eddie Guerrero-Austin program. Unfortunately, they first ensured they had the smallest audience possible to witness it. Let's see, in the current landscape of a new program involving one of the egos, gets one match to get over before being abandoned. In the first attempt at getting it over falls flat, it is easy to blame the lack of drawing power on the junior member. Sorry, Eddie. On the same Raw, Undertaker beat the crap out of Van Dam, who kept on fighting. This set up a title match where Van Dam almost beat The Undertaker, but Flair screwed him. The commentators and ring announcer went so far as to actually say Van Dam won the title and Undertaker won it back, even though clearly that was not the intent. Okay, imagine for a second Triple H was booked in that spot. Right, this result will be talked about by no end. The wrestlers, the commentators, the whole thing would lead to pay-per-view. Well, what happened here? Van Dam's near win was so important it wasn't mentioned a week later by anyone who matters, if at all. In the interim, they set up a Triple H Undertaker pay-per-view main event as the egos continue to protect each other. This kind of lack of follow-up totally undermined the good workers in WCW. If the promotion doesn't care enough to hype last week's near win, why would the fans? On SmackDown, they announced Hulk Hogan would retire at the end of the show. This angle had also been heavily hyped on Raw. Sure enough, out came Hogan. He started down that road. He went sleazy by bringing his dad's death into the storyline. Of course, Vince came out and announced that Hogan couldn't retire because he was obligated contractually. Hogan said he didn't want to retire until he beat Vince up. On Raw, after the attack by Eddie Guerrero, it seemed like Austin should be interested in getting at him. Heck, maybe they'd even let Guerrero get some licks in and keep the whole thing balanced. Chris Benoit shows up on Raw, playing babyface, eventually sitting ringside when Flair kicked him out. And lo and behold, comes the main event. Austin attacks Eddie and Benoit attacks Austin. There may be merit to having Benoit be a heel, but they turned him in front of his hometown fans who didn't want the angle, and the way was made sort of meaningless unless it leads to a program with Austin and Austin putting over Benoit. On Raw, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit in the same ring. Austin casually asked for a match with either of them, but then zeroes in on a match against Flair. Good Lord, they're treating Eddie and Benoit like they treated the NWO when it comes to the Austin program. And of course, the biggest event is that the booking team decided that Austin would wrestle Brock Lesnar on TV and lose the match. Austin thought it was stupid to give that away on TV, and at this point, it sure did seem nothing to build up with an already weak program with Eddie and Benoit. While we'll likely never know the details, Austin presumably decided that he was being undermined and walked out. There's some speculation in the Observer that while negotiating other booking possibilities, Austin was aware of a Bret Hart-style screw job. Austin's well-known complaints with the creative team are bang on, but one can question the level of professionalism. Then again, one can say that Vince established his professionalism as an organization when he mistreated Bret Hart. And the top guys have gotten away with manipulations for a long time. The loss of Austin will be immense. On Raw, they killed the two-owner storyline by having Vince beat Flair in a horrible match. They discarded the Flair as a servant storyline because Austin walked out and proceeded to build a match that may have taken place a year from now. Unbelievable. Lastly, word is that Vince McMahon has once again hired Vince Russo to be a writer for the company. There's question as to the level of control Russo will have, but his presence alone speaks to limited consideration to those in control, particularly Vince McMahon, have given the reasons for WCW's downfall. WWF and King of the Ring this past Sunday, of course, the Austin mess leading up to the show dominated the thoughts. Pay-per-view did have a few good matches, and the requisite dogs. On Velocity this weekend, they actually ran canned promos for the key matches. He runs down the whole card. I'm not going to do that. Overall, I didn't really know how to rate the show. I like that Hogan submitted to Angle. It appears that this pay-per-view may mark the end of the cycle. Since Austin's gone, Triple H is out with injury. There seems to be momentum in the company for the idea of putting over the young guys cleanly in a real attempt to create new stars. Isn't it sad that they pissed away 2 invasions and a promotional split without elevating a single person? Now, most of the young guys have marginalized by a long period of misuse, but if Hogan, Nash, and Undertaker can be used the right way, some guys like Angle and Benoit can manage to become draws. If the intention to switch the group or the guard is honest, one thing is for sure. I wouldn't want it to be Kane, nearly ready to return from injury. All right. So there's a lot there, guys, and I want your thoughts on it. I thought this was really good stuff from Herb. It might be some of his best stuff, honestly. I think he's spot on in everything he said. I think he nailed the problem that permeated the promotion in early 2002 with a lot of the mishaps with the invasion, with RVD, with Jericho, the way they were handled, Diener. What do you think of Herb's words, and do they ring true for you?
Yeah, because you kind of got the sense that they were going in this in-between period. Like, some of the established talent was obviously in the main event scene, but you had all this younger talent. Younger, I mean Benoit, Eddie, and Jericho. Even though Jericho had the title going into WrestleMania, he gets pushed down the card. So it's kind of like status quo in the main event scene, at least until Brock enters into the picture in this show in SummerSlam.
Obviously, there is a lot of, I think Hogan, I don't know what the plan was after WrestleMania. If people within the company didn't think that Hogan was going to get over in Canada, and Rock, as one thing you always got to give Rock credit for, and we saw it, last weekend or a couple weekends ago, is that he could play both sides without even realizing it. And I don't know how far they thought they were going to go with Hogan, or how much shelf life he had. I mean, they sit there and not to defend him. Well, I guess I am, but whatever. Everybody went on this triple, he slammed Triple H a few times, but here's a guy who came back. He got his big win at WrestleMania. Had they shifted the card, so I saw a video on YouTube. So I forgot who it was, but somebody did what would happen if the previous 35 WrestleManias were all 2 nights. And somebody said that the 18 that Triple H and Jericho would have main evented Saturday night, and Hogan and Rock would have main evented Sunday night. But
there's another version. I don't know if it's the one you watched, where our buddy Richie Morris and Ryan Gray actually participated. They did that exact exercise. So check it out.
No, this is a different one. This one guy did them all. I got to look at that though. But it was actually pretty good. There were some that you thought made no sense, but actually did. On a side note, he had, for WrestleMania 3 night 1, he had Piper, Adonis end the night. And I'm sure everyone's like, well, why didn't Steamboat Savage? Because the whole build was Piper leaving. So give Piper that nice long ending. But anyway, and then 1 month later, Triple H has to drop the belt to Hogan because, well, he was hot and Vince was.
I think the bigger problem, though, like Aaron and I just did that 18 main event for our title change project. And the match is still fine. I really think the big problem is the storyline. It just makes no sense. It does revolve around Stephanie. Jericho is marginalized, and I've rebooked WrestleMania 18 on a million podcasts over the last 6 months. But I just don't think that needed to even be for the title. I think I think Triple H could have come back at the Rumble and gotten tossed out, or even if he wins and loses the title shot, he gets screwed at No Way Out, and then him and Angle have a grudge match at Mania to end the feud, or him and Jericho have a grudge match at Mania, no title on the line. I remain steadfast in that Austin should have never lost the title, and he should have lost to RVD at Mania. I don't think they should have unified anything. I don't think they should have fought at Armageddon. I think, or Vengeance, whatever it was. I think Austin should have held it all the way until Mania as a heel. Don't turn face after sorry. Stay as a heel. Do your best to keep him as a heel, and then RVD wins the Rumble and goes over Austin at Mania. I think that was your best way to make a star, and you still give Triple H his big comeback moment and then wait for him to be ready to get the title back. He didn't need to win it there. They could have just had him versus Angle in a blood feud match at Mania. Yeah, I
like that actually, because it was obvious that he was. They like doing the whole. I mean, that's the cookie cutter thing. Big guy comes back from an injury, close to the Rumble, win the title. It's like the cookie cutter way to do it. Having said that, it was evident during those first couple matches that Triple H was not in total game, no pun intended, shape.
Yeah, that's why. What was the rush? Like he wasn't ready.
And Austin was on
needed
fire.
time
I mean, he was on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he
was
deserved
on
that main
fire.
event. He deserved that.
Yeah.
And RVD deserved the world title. I mean, he was your most over guy. But Greg, what do you think?
I think, you know what Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 18 and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 had in common? They were the fourth wheel in their own main event title feud.
Pretty much.
Because Jericho was fourth wheel behind Stephanie's dog.
Yes, behind
Lucy. He was in the build-up. It was...
And the shampoo.
And then the match itself is just, it just... Yeah, I don't know. A little tone deaf. But it just speaks to... Even beyond Hogan getting the title and all that, he was over. Like, I don't think anyone even has a qualm with Hogan. Like, they actually did the right thing for once. I think they struck while the iron was hot because it was going to be brief. So my issue isn't even that Hogan wins the belt. I just think it's a real weird year. There's a lot of weird stuff.
It's very
transitional. Yeah,
it's very
there's a ton of it.
There was a lot of hot potatoing with the belt until SummerSlam.
All of them, yeah. All right, we got one more Herb quick. There's not a ton here, but we'll read this. This is his last one ever that we have record of here. WWE has vengeance on this past Sunday, featuring Rock challenging for the title. I figured the match would be enough to draw a small bump over previous buy rates, but they also added the first appearance of Eric Bischoff. While I don't think that the decision of Triple H being on the pay-per-view will affect any way of the buy rate, I'm sure if the buy rate increases, Triple H will disagree with me. After all, he's the master game player. When I ordered the show on Sunday morning, the cable representative I spoke with said that she received more calls for the show than usual for pay-per-views. So let's hope this is a signal of turnaround in business. But given the way that they have completely screwed up every other seemingly simple invasion angle, and given that the way the top guys have been carefully not to let anybody else go over them, you'll forgive me if I'm not stoked about the possibilities that are at hand with Eric Bischoff's arrival. Shit, they almost blew their wad Saturday night talking about Eric attempted to bring in Goldberg. That's breaking a Carter rule of teasing something that's not a done deal. I have to quickly say the whole general manager storyline really does come across as a stretch. Damn it all, Vince found a way to put Stephanie in front of a microphone. Eric Bischoff is smooth, but Stephanie, outside the ring, Bischoff has always been a strong personality. But Stephanie, geez, she wanted to kill her dad. Then she got dumped by Triple H while renewing her vows. Now she's the boss who has nothing but good things to say about Triple H, the ring general. While there's some storyline necessity to having McMahon run one of the brands, Stephanie's presence is not a good thing. And then again, maybe the extra duties will end up reducing her role on the creative side, where she's been a total disaster. They finally clued into one small thing I mentioned a few times, using both Raw and SmackDown commentary teams on pay-per-view and making a point of talking about it. The SmackDown crew did the first half, and the Raw crew did the second half. And then recaps the whole show. Turns out Viewers Choice Canada, my cable company, didn't settle the issue of whose fault the problem will be after the rebroadcast on Tuesday, so they added a few more rebroadcasts. Must have been some kind of issue. On Raw, then after pay-per-view, they fast-forwarded through 6 months of storylines with Triple H. He jumped to Raw to be with Shawn, so you think we get a match or two of these two clowns causing trouble for Bischoff, as they promised us on pay-per-view. At that point, Eric could retaliate with some sort of move to generate friction. These 2 months of development all took about 4 minutes. Bischoff announced at the start of the show Shawn Michaels would be Triple H's manager, leading to Triple H being upset that Michaels acted like the big star. That storyline reaction from Hunter should or could have been stretched out for months, with the disdain of Michaels toward being a lowly manager mixed in with charismatic ego, making him want to be the star. That pissed off Hunter, who should have came up month 4 down the line, not minute 4. Sometime after that angry look, Hunter could have proposed that he and Michaels are miscast, and they really should go back to having fun. Hunter could cut a promo and then turn on him in the process. Add a bit of padding to the scenario, you get 6 months of TV. Nope, instead Triple H proposed that Michaels and he caused trouble to thwart Bischoff, leading to the turn on Michaels in one night. If they only do this fast-forwarding storyline once to get the new show over, I can live with it. If they do this stuff every week, having Raw just be a fast-paced Nitro, they'll run into the same problem that Nitro ran into, eating up storylines at the rate that the fans no longer can get into them. How many times did pretty much everyone on Nitro turn heel and face in their last year? I mean, Herb, it's too bad he packed it up because, again, he's pretty dialed in at this point as to the issues that were bogging down the WWF, WWE during that 1 year stretch, burning through storylines at a rapid pace. Now, I get, right, they wanted Shawn versus Hunter at SummerSlam. They wanted it to help draw that card. So it's hard. And they didn't know if Shawn had more than one match in him, right? So I want to give him a little bit of a mulligan to say, all right, they didn't know what Shawn had in the boat. They wanted to have one match and get past it. Now, you could argue they could have saved that match for Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden if they really were concerned. And you could have still done the 4-month buildup and just had it there instead of SummerSlam. And you probably would have been fine. But I think that's why they rushed it more than anything.
Yeah, and I mean, again, looking ahead, I'm curious when they decided, looking ahead after this match and looking ahead into September, if they had figured out or decided they were going to make a second belt, because the next night on that Raw at the Garden, Triple H beats Taker to be number one contender. And then at the end of the night, Stephanie announces that Brock is taking the belt with him to SmackDown. Because I think a lot of that is what gets muddied. I would have had no problem. I mean, the match we're watching tonight is, I think I had it at 4 or 5 on my GWW Top 100. And you and I have debated, JR, in past episodes, how you thought that maybe they went too far because Brock and Rock should have spotlighted. I don't know about that. I think the whole card top to bottom is great anyway. But the fact that Triple H was going to become the world champion and they needed to create a whole linear thing. And then, of course, we get into RVD does get his title shot. We don't go that far, but, and then we had, Kane fucking corpses and so forth, other bullshit over the next few months. It's just a fucking disaster. To get to the Chamber, now we had a great moment at the Garden. Shawn wins his last, singles, pretty much a singles title. He does his victory tour for a month, and then Triple H just wins the belt back at Armageddon. If we don't do that, I would have no problem with them leading that to Triple H and Shawn at the Garden. I mean, again, it's weird. Is it 6 of one, half does the other? You do it at Nassau Coliseum or you do it at MSG, 2 venues that you'll sell out and make a ton of money. So, I mean, if they're looking at it that way, but I think 2 things, and we definitely want your thoughts, Greg. I had to get this point out though. Getting back to Herb's earlier comments, I don't know if when they knew in May and June that Brock was the guy. Like, I knew that eventually Vince looked at Brock and said, I mean, look at the fucking guy. At some point in the next 2 years, he's going to be a world champion. Little do we realize that we talk about a guy, youth getting over, and Vince said, all right, people want me to start putting youth over. This guy's going to be champion in the summertime. And there you go. So, unfortunately, Brock's elevation that fast kind of muddied the waters a bit, I feel, in terms of booking for 2 shows, because then you stuck Brock on SmackDown and Raw kind of became rudderless. And, oh, well, Triple H is here, Shawn's here, give him a belt and he'll do his thing and whatever. The Raw side of things is pretty unwatchable for a while. And SmackDown, even though the personalities are on Raw and we get some new guys later on in the year, SmackDown is head and shoulders the best show until pretty much the beginning of 2004. I think that's pretty obvious. But I think Brock being elevated kind of threw a wrench in the mix on what maybe the plan was throughout 2002. But no, Herb's dead on. It's a shame he did stop, because he's right. There is a lot of hot shotting and things, and they could have let Shawn and Hunter marinate longer than it did. But hindsight's 20/20, but I think a lot of people could say, well, youth did get put over because Brock, 20 something years old, is, pins Rock clean in the middle of the ring to become WWE champion. We're not talking, the fucking European title. We're talking the world, WWE title,
And it's still the split brand and everything else, but yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. My memories of this is, I do remember that night when Shawn was turned on by Triple H. I do remember it feeling like, man, they're doing like 3 months worth of storylines in one show. This is kind of ridiculous. I'm trying to, because Russo came back to the company for a little bit, right? Was it during this time?
I don't remember him coming back at all. Did he really?
No, he did. It's quick. I think there was I remember it was even announced on their website.
Yeah.
It was like Vince Russo rehired. It's right around this time. And then it was met with awful feedback, and they were like, all right, forget it. And then
because
he ended up going to
by December, he's in, it might even be November.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. He goes to TNA. But no, they did bring him back because they were kind of stuck a little bit with ideas. And then I think the feedback was bad. I think Russo's version is probably that he wasn't going to get the control he wanted, blah, blah, blah. But so it literally, or he was just going to be a consultant, I think. It was something like that. I remember it being on their own website. So it was legit, but it was legit a week. That was it. But, well, that's what comes with Vince Russo. It always is a big ass dilemma. Also a dilemma is the number 1 song in the nation this week. Nelly and Kelly Rowland racing to Scott Criscolo's vintage Pop Culture Corner.
All right, thank you, JR. And I think I think this is the newest in terms of timeline. I think Pop Culture Corner I think I've ever done. I don't think we've ever done anything in the 2000s. Should be very interesting. It's been a while.
No,
so yes,
not. Yeah.
Nelly and Kelly Rowland with Dilemma is your number one song this week for the week ending August 24th, 2002. Number 2, Nelly again, this time solo with It's Getting Hot in Here, so do not take off all your clothes, Matt Rotella. Complicated by Avril Lavigne at 3. Just a Friend.
Somebody say take off all your clothes.
Oh, God.
Just a Friend 2002 by Mario
Great
at 4.
Song. Great song.
It's a me, Mario.
I Need a Girl Part 2 at number 5. There's a bunch of featurings. This is like the featurings top 10. So you have P. Diddy and Genuine.
That's I'll say, yeah, that's Diddy.
Featuring Loon, Mario Winans, and Tammy Ruggieri.
It's a big year. This is Mario's biggest year. He's got the Just a Friend. He's got that. And then the the awful cut song. It's okay if you cheat on me. Just don't tell me. That's that one.
Gangsta Lovin' by Eve featuring Alicia Keys at 6. Down for You by Irv Gotti presents The Ink featuring Ja Rule, Ashanti, Charlie Baltimore, and V. There's more artists singing on songs total than there are songs in the top 10. Yeah. Charlie Baltimore and Vita.
It's a big R&B hip hop year. God,
it is
top 10. That's all it is.
This whole thing, it's done. Number 8.
We're kind of in between. Like we're kind of faded off the grunge, and it's like just on the dawning of like butt rock. That's like Nickelback is starting to rise a little bit, and like stuff like that. Like that's all coming around. So, like this is like a weird little window where like rock and alternative was like really kind of a little shaky.
And we're getting out of the boy band era with Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And we have, Incubus. Think of all the artists that did songs.
System of a Down, like all that stuff.
99 and 03 for WWE pay-per-view themes.
Yeah. And it's still saliva. I mean, there's still some big ones. Yeah. You kind of got that angry rock, but as far as like pop, or as far as like top 40 style rock alternative, like there's a little gap in here before it kind of gets back to, like I said, like that more of that poppy rock with like Nickelback and pop rocks, right?
As we're doing this, I didn't realize It's Getting Hot in Here was this old. I thought it came out in like 2008. I didn't think it was that old.
No. That was like one of his early, Country Grammar was his first one, but this is like, that's probably like his 4th hit, I think.
Okay. Just Like a Pill by Pink at 8. Happy by Ashanti at 9. And Nothing by Nore, N-O-R-E. He looks like Gable Steveson.
Noriega. I think he went by Nore.
That's right, Nore. At number 10. So there's your top 10. Incredibly hip-hop centric.
It's other than Pink, and that's it.
Yeah. So, all right, let's go from the radio to the theater and take a look at what was going on in theaters in 2000 on this weekend, late August of 2002. Obviously, a lot of summer movies. Interesting stuff here. Not great, not terrible. At number 10, Bloodwork from Warner Brothers. I have no idea what that is. Bloodwork? Like a medical movie?
I think that's a Clint Eastwood movie. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Number 9, Simone from New Line. It actually debuted. There were 3 debuts on this weekend, and it's Simone S1M0NE, whatever that means.
About Raven Simone's rise on Nickelodeon.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Raven Simone. That's so Raven.
It's about Al Pacino, and I think he makes like a 2002 version of like an AI CGI thing.
Oh, geez.
What model?
At number 8, Undisputed from Miramax. That's another debut weekend movie. Number 7, Austin Powers in Gold Member. 5th week, made at this point, it's almost a 200 million. Get in my belly. Number 6, the other debut, Serving Sarah from Paramount. I don't even another one.
Saving Silverman is much better than the Serving Sarah.
That was Matthew Perry, and I forget. I think oh God, the one from the first Austin Powers movie. Was it Elizabeth Hurley?
Elizabeth Hurley. All right, top 5. At number 5, Blue Crush, the surfing movie. Mm-hmm. Number 4, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Unfortunately, those movies are still going on. At number 3,
I would have thought that was a little bit later. I would have thought that was more like 04, 05.
No, that movie had legs. That was like a box office.
And then it had like 5 sequels or something.
2.
At number 3, feels like 5. At number 3, Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams. At number 2, Triple X, Vin Diesel. And at number 1, Signs, which I think is the Mel Gibson one with the aliens and the crops.
M. Night.
M. Night
Crop dusting, more D'Amato. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, they get killed by water. Aliens get killed by water.
You get killed by D'Amato's crop dusting is what you get killed by. Anyway, there's your top 10 for the end of August in 2002. Unfortunately, we are in August, so sorry, Greg, we don't get to take the field this week, but we do have some baseball.
Take a beating, Greg. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Greg. I don't know. 2002 Jets. What were JR? What was the
AFC's champions? That was the last time they won the division.
Yeah, that was the buzz, right?
Chad Pennington. Chad Pennington.
He'd be better if he was quarterback last year. Probably would have been better.
It has been a long fucking few days.
Yep. All right. So here are the games on this Sunday. Obviously, as a Sunday, everybody's playing. I'll just go quick to the teams we care about. Randy Johnson did win his 19th for the Diamondbacks, who, by the way, of course, the defending world champions. I know.
Yes.
Well, Enrique Wilson would be dead if the Yankees won. But anyway,
yes.
Diamondbacks with 7-0. Red Sox lost. What were the Yankees doing? Yankees lost to Texas 6-2. Mets beat the Rockies 7-4. Here are the standings as of this moment. The Yankees are leading the AL East at 80-48, 7 ahead of the Red Sox.
Choke to the Angels in the playoffs.
Yep, which is funny. It's funny about that. The Twins lead the Central. 6. That
was also Yes's first season. 2002.
Yes, it was. It was Yes's first season.
And I couldn't get it here in Long Island because it was during the Cablevision dispute.
Didn't Yes and Cablevision have had like 11 disputes in the last 20 years?
Cablevision disputes with everybody. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they really do. They're garbage.
They didn't even have the early TNA pay-per-views, Cablevision in 2002.
Yeah, they're fucking.
I had them for those 3 years. I was in Connecticut, and they were fucking terrible.
Yeah, they suck. I've never had them, and I'm better off. Oakland leads the West 80-51. They're 2 ahead of the Angels and 2 ahead of the Angels and the Mariners.
Yes.
That was like Miguel Tejada, Chavez, right? And then
would have been nice if they fucking knocked the Angels out of the playoff contention.
I know. Yeah, that was.
Is this the Moneyball streak?
This is Mulder, Zito, Tim Hudson, Tejada.
No, I think
right?
it's
Chavez.
I think it's 03. I think it might be 03. Craig.
Braves lead the East comfortably.
I don't know.
Braves lead the East. 01 was the Jeter flip. So
yeah, but when did they win all the games? No, you're right, Greg. It was August 13th to September 4th, 02. Yeah.
Okay. Braves comfortably leading the East. Mets are in last. What a shock! I think that was Art Howe's year. Maybe
that was the year that I believe Ted Haley picked the Mets and the Rangers to win the World Series.
Oh God! Guess what?
They both finished fucking last.
they're both in last place.
I think they lost 200 games combined. He's like, you gotta like the Mets and the Rangers.
Thankfully, this is the end of Steve Phillips' reign of terror.
Yeah, I know.
No longer sexually harassing interns at the Mets.
Yeah, and he didn't want fucking A-Rod.
You can tolerate it if they win, but you know.
Yeah, well, he should have wanted A-Rod, but instead, because A-Rod wanted a car, we instead got fucking Jeremy Burnett's. So. And fucking broken down Mo Vaughn. But anyway, Cardinals lead the Central comfortably. Well, actually not comfortably. They're up 3 games on the Astros. And the Diamondbacks, the defending world champions, lead the Dodgers by 8 and the Giants by 11.5. So the 2 teams that actually go to the World Series in 2002, the Angels and the Giants, neither of them at this point are in first place. I think that's kind of crazy.
That World Series is like the epitome of the steroid era right there. Those teams. And I'm not complaining. I don't care. But if you go back and watch those those games, those guys are every single one of them is just like one is bigger. They just keep getting bigger, Monsoon. Like one is bigger than the next is bigger than the next when they come up to bat. It's insane. Yeah. They're all fucking ripped.
Yeah, I remember JT Snow rescuing poor little Darren Baker from getting crushed to death.
Yeah,
I mean, right. Yeah, that was a big story. Yeah, that's right. That was the big moment.
Yep. I mean. If you look at the 2002 Angels, they end up winning 99 games like out of fucking nowhere. You look at this roster, it was Benji Molina. Here was pretty much the starting lineup. It was Benji Molina, who definitely didn't look like he was on roids. Scott Spezio and his
He ate whatever everyone else was leaving on the table.
Yeah. Adam Kennedy, David Eckstein, Troy Glaus, Garrett Anderson, Darren Erstad, Tim Salmon, and Brad Fulmer. And then you had, guys like Benji Gill on the bench and Orlando Palmero.
What's his fuck? Was Lackey? Was
I'm going to the rotation. The rotation was John Lackey, Aaron Seeley, Kevin Apier, Jared Washburn was the ace. He won 18 games. And Ramon Ortiz.
And what's his face was the closer? Who's that jackass?
Troy Percival. They had Ben Weber.
There was another guy in the bullpen. Who am I thinking of?
Well, Ben Weber was the nut job with the fucking goggles.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
But I mean, if you talk about juice, I mean, that fucking Giants. Well, obviously in the American League, the fucking Rangers and the Indians were drinking it. If you look at those teams and those,
they're all huge. I mean, Bonds and Bonds. I mean, Bonds is massive, but his numbers in that World Series are freaking absurd. I mean, they're just like,
yeah.
If you look at him, they're insane. I mean, he just kept getting walked or he hit a home run. that was it, pretty much.
He hit what was his average that year? He hit 370.
Wow.
370 in 92.
What was his on-base percentage? What was his on-base percentage?
On-base percentage was 582.
Yeah, insane. It was insane. He was on base every fucking at bat.
He walked 198 times in 2002.
Yeah. You would just walk him.
Intentional.
You had to walk him. If not, he was just hitting a home run. It was absurd. How many home runs was that when he hit 70 or whatever the hell it was?
No, that was a couple years later. 46 for 110. But that year you had Benito Santiago, who definitely was on it because he came out of nowhere to hit 16 and 74 ribbies. JT Snow, Jeff Kent had 37 and 108.
Yeah, I mean,
then you had Rich Aurelia. David Bell had 20 homers.
Yeah.
Shinjo, ex-Met, and then Reggie Sanders. I don't know what he was drinking, but he had 23 homers and 85 RBIs. Then you had Kenny Lofton off the bench.
Reds, and he goes, fucking 20 bombs.
I know. And then that roster. I mean, the rotation was okay. You'd leave on Russ Ortiz had 14 wins. Kirk Reeder had 14 wins. Jason Schmidt had 13 wins. Ryan Jensen had 13 wins. Rob Nen was the closer. Jay Watasik. There you go, JR.
Wow.
I mean, it was. There's a romanticism about that time, right? I mean, it's cool in a way, but it is clownish when you go back and watch it. It's like it's cartoonish. They're all. It's like 80s. It's like 80s wrestling. I mean, they're all just juiced out of their minds. They're massive. The arms are huge. The heads are huge. But it was also like the most fun time in baseball. I mean, I lived and died with every pitch in those Yankee Red Sox games. But that stretch from like 96 to, I don't know, when they started like cracking down, I'll call it like 2011 or whatever it is in there. Like that 15 years is like epic baseball games. I mean, if you hate baseball, it's probably because of that time period where every game was like 4.5 hours. Every game was like 13 to 10. And, it was just ridiculous, right? But
Joe West, was it Joe West that said the Yankees and Red Sox need to have a limit on their pitching fucking walks
because they'd walk a million times and they'd switch guys. Those games were just wars. I mean, wars. Like, those would ruin. That would be my weekend. Like Friday night, it's on. Saturday on Fox. Sunday night ESPN, and like it was torture for the whole weekend. Torture, just watching those games. Like
you got to go to school the next day. Fucking ESPN game ends at 1:45. and what's funny is it's 4-2. It's the Yanks would win like 3-0. You're thinking a 4.5 hour game. It's like 11 to 10.
Yeah, well, even in like 08 or 09, we go to Picasso's for a pay per view. Right. Yankees Red Sox would start at 8. The pay per view would end, and they'd be like in the 5th inning. I'd be like, I get home for the end of the game. I drive home and my insides would be exploding from the pizza, and I'd watch the end of the game. Ridiculous.
All the fucking broccoli. That asshole that used to wear the fucking what was it, Brady?
My insides are just healed. You know when they say when you stop smoking, like your lungs immediately start to get better? That was me when I started going to Picasso's. My intestines.
Oh my god. Those years we used to get the salad, the fucking nachos, the fucking pizza with the broccoli, and oh my god.
That was our steroid era. That was
we weren't taking Nandrolone, we were eating the lard.
Speaking of steroid era, look at this.
Talk about somebody that looks like lard.
It's a Muppet. It looks like a Muppet. All right, listen. Let's move on. Let's we're done with. I don't. Whatever's left. All right. Let's move forward. August 25th, 2002, SummerSlam, Long Island, New York. Uniondale, is that what it was? Was it officially
Uniondale? Yeah, Uniondale.
Uniondale. Stupid name. Uniondale, New York.
Even though it's like right next to Hofstra, which is in Hempstead for some reason.
It is. You literally drive past the arena and you're changing cities. It's ridiculous.
These all sound like made up places. All right, Jim Ross, Jerry Lawler, Michael Cole, Taz on commentary for the night. Of course, this is the next to last match on the show. So why don't we start the match and then we'll get into some of the fun facts from our buddy Steve Riddle. So here we are, SummerSlam 2002 on Peacock. We're at 145.07. Shawn Michaels in the ring, Triple H standing on the apron. And we're going to get started in 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. All right. So notes for our buddy Steve here. Long Island was a regular house show stop for the WWF since inception. It was occasionally used by NWA and other promotions. There were 5 total WWE pay-per-views, including this one. So, Greg, do you know the other 4?
Okay, so
I'm sorry. There's one after this. There's more. Yeah.
Okay.
There's been 5 total before today. What are the other ones?
Okay, WrestleMania 2, obviously.
Yep.
Was it one of them was a Great American Bash, right?
Yep. Scott, you know the year?
Was it Bash 08?
It was.
Bash 08? Yep.
I know one of them was Evolution.
Yep.
Was it the other one a Fatal 4-Way possibly?
Yeah, Fatal 4-Way 2010.
Yep.
There you go. Also hosted the first ever Science Man event in May of 85. Scott, I'm sure you know this. There's one NWA pay-per-view there.
It was Bunkhouse Stampede in January of 88, the same night as the very first Royal Rumble. And it did very poorly and they never went back. So
4 super cards from ROH, Sign of Dishonor 05, Night of Tribute 05, Unscripted 06, and Undeniable 08. 1 AEW pay-per-view, World's End 2023. Of course, a lot of TV there. This feud started at King of the Ring when Triple H met up with Shawn and Kevin Nash backstage. Over the next few weeks, Shawn teased bringing Triple H to Raw so they could join the NWO. At Vengeance, Triple H nearly decided to stay a SmackDown until Shawn convinced him to jump ship. On the 722 Raw, Bischoff told Shawn he would be Triple H's manager as he tried to drive a wedge. And at the end of the night, Shawn and Triple H teased the return of DX, but Triple H gave Shawn the pedigree. A week later, Triple H cut a promo on what he did, and he was told by a stagehand to go backstage as Shawn was laid out bloodied next to a car windshield. On 8-5, Triple H vowed to find out who attacked Shawn. At the end of the night, Shawn played security footage, which revealed, of course, it was Triple H. And he said he did it to make Shawn look weak. He took him out through the Shawn would challenge Triple H to a match at SummerSlam. A week later, Triple H cut a promo claiming he used Shawn during their run. They were never friends, and he claimed to be more successful than Shawn ever was and would end his career at SummerSlam. And on 8/19, Bischoff announced that this match would be unsanctioned, and Shawn would then cost Triple H the undisputed title and attacked him with a sledgehammer at the end of the night. Have to question that strategy by Shawn because he probably would have gotten a world title match if Triple H won the belt, but I guess he's figured he's one and done at this point, right? Because again, he's not supposed to stick around. Did you guys think at the time like this would be it, or were you thinking this could be the start of something more?
I was thinking maybe that this would be a slow start because, I mean, obviously this is his first match, Shawn, in 4 years. So it's kind of like you don't know if the back's going to hold up. So, I mean, I don't think he starts regularly wrestling until like what? Later in 03? Like late in 03?
Yeah, he decides he's okay after this match and he wants to do more. But it's not until I think June of 03 when he goes back on the road and starts really like becoming a regular member of the roster.
Yeah, I mean,
special stuff.
Yeah, he leaves. Obviously, he's gone after this because he sells what we'll see at the end of the match.
Yeah,
and then he comes back right before obviously Survivor Series. He gets in the chamber, wins the world title, loses to Hunter at Armageddon, so Hunter can get the belt back. He's in the Rumble, and he gets tossed by Jericho. They build. I don't think Shawn wrestles at No Way Out 03. Shawn, that was a vicious fucking backbreaker.
Oh.
But again, this is the whole reason why Shawn wanted Hunter, because he knew where, Shawn knew, Hunter knew what to do and where to do it. And obviously wrestles Jericho at 19. And then
he's at Backlash. He's in that 6-man.
in the 6-man.
He's
Judgment
in
Day.
Nash's corner, Judgment Day, and then
King of the
Bad
Ring.
Blood. He fights
Bad Blood. He wrestles
Flair.
Flair.
Right?
Flair.
Yeah, and that's it. That's the start. I think from there on, he's full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was a good choice for a match at the time because they had never actually had like a big match. I mean, they had the one on Raw in early '96, but they never really had like a big pay-per-view match for their feud. I mean, obviously they'd wrestle a million fucking times after this, but at the time, this was actually a fresh matchup that they had never blown off, you know. I will say I forgot that Triple H was clean shaven in this match. I would have guessed he had a beard
this
still.
begins it. Yeah, this was his first. He's clean shaven, and the following night he starts wearing the polo shirts, and then he's obviously slowly starts working his way into his. Flair
Is the next night
cosplay.
the title when he gets handed the title?
No, 2 weeks. The next night I just watch. It's part of one of my chrono watches. The next night at the Garden, he beats Taker to be #1 contender for Brock's title, and then at the end of the night is when Stephanie tells Bischoff that Brock's taking the belt with him to SmackDown.
Right.
And then the following Monday, that Friday on SmackDown, Taker wins they do some like gauntlet thing with Rikishi and a Benoit and a bunch of guys. Anyway, Taker ends up getting the shot at Unforgiven with Brock. So the September 2nd Raw,
That's right.
2 weeks after, the week after this is when Bischoff hands him the world title. And then RVD wins a 4-way to get the title shot at Unforgiven. And then on the 16th Raw, I just watched it like the other day, Triple H costs RVD the IC belt to Jericho. And then obviously Kane ends up winning it. And then the IC belt goes away, which is, I still think was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Thank God for Austin to do that again. That just made no sense. I know they were consolidating belts because throughout 2002, you see the light heavyweight title gone.
Oh yeah, they get rid of all.
The hardcore title's gone.
European, they all go.
Yep, the European's gone in July.
Well, they merge it like week by week. It's like they merged the hardcore into the Europe or into the IC, then the European into the IC because they're trying to raise the IC into being the main title.
Right.
On
RVD
Raw,
pretty much was in all these mergers. Yeah. RVD had the belt.
Right. Raw was supposed to be the IC belt was supposed to be the main belt on Raw. And then they decided, no, we should actually have a world title, not the IC title. So then they merged, they make the new belt and so basically the world title he gets handed because he ends up consolidating the IC into that becomes an amalgamation of every single title that was on Raw. That's how they justify it being like the best title or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So this has been all back work. I mean, just all back work on Shawn. Which is, I mean, that's the way you do it, right? I mean, and again, at the time, you don't know if he's back. Like, is this like, so it's kind of cringe the whole match because you're waiting for like, can Shawn's back really withstand this beating that he's laying into him? You know, it's like chair shots and, you know, stomps and everything else on it. It in a fun way, it kind of mirrors his last match before he went out with the injury, WrestleMania 14. Which was also where you're cringing the entire time about his back. So he bookends this little layoff with like 2 matches where the whole thing is built around, you know, this guy's back just going to crumble.
That was a stiff DDT. Oof.
Oh.
Yeah, Hunter stays clean shaven till
it's a bad choice.
I think like Rumble 04.
Yeah.
It doesn't look bad until like the back of 03 when, Stephanie tells him I want children and I don't want children with, 12 eyes. So he cycles off and he starts getting all fucking chunky and his face looks like a fucking pumpkin. So that's when he grows I would say pretty much probably by the 04 Rumble when these two wrestle again, as a matter of fact. I'm pretty much, no, you know what? Now that I think about it, no, it might have been after 20 because I think I'm trying to remember the poster from WrestleMania 20 with him, Benoit, and Shawn, and I still think he was clean shaven. So I think he's clean shaven for a good, like almost 2 years.
Yeah,
almost.
A while.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty clean shaven when Evolution's around the beginning.
Yeah, and I'm thinking he definitely has because he gets when does he start growing the Chester Arthur, the Harley?
Oh, 05,
he has the Harley. Well, he has the Harley race beard when he wrestles Batista at 21.
Yeah.
So probably like late 04 when he's feuding with Orton. I think he starts growing the Chester Arthur.
Yeah, I think he has it by the Rumble. I think it's
yeah.
It's around
I'm
there.
trying to remember.
And then he ditches it when he comes back after the Hell in a Cell. I think he just has it for that stretch.
Yeah, because
Well, he has it. When is that showdown with JBL? Isn't it in the fall? I think he has it there too. He might actually start in late 04 with that.
Yeah, because when he comes back, because he leaves after he loses to Batista at Vengeance in the Cell, and he doesn't come back until
the Homecoming.
Homecoming when he beats the shit out of Flair, and he's got like his regular beard. So
yeah,
it's anything goes, Earl.
Shawn. The other thing I always find funny is Shawn. Shawn has perfectly fine hair here, and then we get to Survivor Series, and he's got the stupid bob or whatever. I don't know why he cut his hair.
I think Survivor Series 02 may be the worst he's ever looked, and that includes when he was fat in '93.
When he was on pancakes and Androlone.
I mean, the only time I'd say he looked close to that is maybe the last days of the long hair when it was getting super thin in like the 2010s. But that Survivor Series 02 look is awful. Between the bob and then the friggin' shit brown tights, it just looks awful.
Yeah. And that's his memorable, world heavyweight title win. It's kind of crazy.
Hold on, Scott. There's a sign that says, Triple H, you are that damn sexy. Are you sure that you weren't there at the that night?
That's me. My face is being hidden there. No, I remember we did it was a mailbag we did years ago, JR, on an episode. And I think we were asked, like, is there a show, in your life that you knew you could go to for many reasons and didn't, and now regret it? And this is number one on my list. I can't think of any reason why I didn't go to this show. It's 50 minutes from my house.
I'd probably say WrestleMania 14 for me. Just being in Boston. I mean, I would say 10, but as a 13-year-old getting to New York City wasn't like the easiest thing. But I think getting to Boston at 17, I probably could easily pulled off. And I don't know why I didn't even think to try, honestly. But
yeah, WrestleMania 10. I mean, I could have gone. I was in college, and I was broke. So
the other one would be the Daniel Bryan Raw, the stupid Steve Corino interview. And so I didn't go to that Raw with Daniel Bryan with Bray Wyatt when he stands up.
Yeah. I know, that was crazy.
That's probably mine.
Yeah, it's probably this
and
one.
Maybe 30. 30 might be another one that we probably could have went to that we didn't.
I don't know. Mania might be New Orleans next year if they decide they don't.
Sorry, the Cowboy told me today, he's like, they should just rotate Philly, Vegas, and New Orleans. That's it. I'm like, well, they'll probably do a few more, and they're going to go to Florida. They're like Florida. But
no, they're going to.
That was his hot take.
From what I've gathered, I feel like the next, not this next year, they're still in limbo. But apparently, from what I've read, 42 is most definitely Vegas, and 43 is
unless this year is Vegas.
Well, if they decide to push it next year, because from what I've read, they're very skittish about, and it's not the Mania itself, because obviously US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis has a roof. I think they're nervous that fate was tempted for Philly on that Saturday night, but we survived and Sunday was fine. But they're nervous that, I mean, it could still snow in Minneapolis in the first week of April. And I think they're worried
saying
about
that Khan wants to move it later in April, right? Like that's part of the discussion.
The what?
They would have it at the end. That Tony Khan is saying too many cons. Nick Khan is saying my brother San Diego Comic Con. They're saying it could be end of April, maybe. Like that's his push if they do Minnesota. So it's like a little safer time. So Mania could actually be later next year.
I would not, for my sake, I would not disapprove of that.
I think that's the big spot. We'll get the table thing later, but that was one of the most vicious spots. The backbreaker on the open chair.
Yeah, it's crazy.
By the way, nice get the F out shirt Napolitano is wearing there at ringside.
I know.
I love that Shawn, like his blade job is already like he's so out of practice from blading, like his blood isn't thin and flowing as it was maybe in its prime. It's already. I mean, he would rectify that over the next year when he starts gushing again, but. These first couple of blade jobs he tries isn't there.
Yeah, that was probably that chair spot was probably one that they probably talked about a lot backstage when they were, because I mean that's even as Triple H could be as protected as possible for a spot like that. Sometimes you just don't know,
Right.
So,
I mean, you can say whatever you want about Triple H, and many have. I would say one thing you can at least give him credit for is he's pretty safe overall. Like you never really have heard him hurting anyone or taking a liberty with anyone. Like, I think he's pretty thorough and safe in the ring. So I'm sure Shawn gave him the full trust. But to your point, There's only so much you could do on stuff like that, where you're just slamming his back across a chair.
Oh, Jesus. That's 2 chair shots on the back. I mean, the second one's folded down, but god damn. They knew the story. That's what it is. It's the back.
It's a long match, Jimmy. It's 27 minutes. And the whole thing is just pretty much been Triple H just destroying the back, destroying the back, destroying the back.
Yep.
Yeah, obviously not listening to the commentary, but Ross is pretty dialed in on this one too.
Yeah. This was a good show. I just watched this whole show short time ago. This match I could watch a billion times and never get sick of it, obviously. This show is really good, and it's not just the main. I know you mentioned the 3 big matches, Greg. I mean Ray and Kurt. Kurt debuts. Were those your favorites, JR? The Katie Stripers, the
pretty up there.
Yeah. Kurt was dialed in. I feel like after that weird Kane shit at Mania, like that. Again, I've just been watching everything. That Edge feud is really good.
Yeah, you go Edge into Hogan, and then into Ray, and into SmackDown 6, into Brock.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great stretch, right? Besides the neck injury, but
yeah.
So it's a great low blow by Shawn to turn the tide.
Yep.
But still not enough. I mean, he's still hurting. I think it's good too that he did the jeans and the cowboy boots with this to like really add to the I'm only here for one night street fight. I'm not back in my tights or anything.
Right. Although it was weird. He was wearing his jeans, but he still had his chaps on. It was very strange.
You gotta give the fans a little bit what they want.
Yeah.
So great super kick into the chair. The blood is completely dried up for him. Yeah.
I know.
I should have taken more aspirin.
Benoit and RVD, really good match on this show. RVD wins the IC belt back.
Well, and it's a cool night too because there you go. Triple H is afraid to bleed. I got tired to bleed. But it's a big main event too because it's the first time they let the SmackDown team call the main event too. So it's Brock, it's SmackDown over Raw, and then it's Cole and Taz get to call the SummerSlam main event, which was like a big deal at the time that they didn't go with JR and King.
Yeah, was it King of the Ring that they first did the split? Or was it Judgment Day?
No, it was Vengeance.
Vengeance. They do have like Cole and
they
Taz
do the first half, second half. And then this is the first time where they do it by match. Yeah.
Right.
Which Vengeance is stupid. I don't know why you'd have them calling different matches. It made no sense.
No. Why would you have Cole and Taz calling Raw matches? It's stupid.
But this had to be the first main event JR hadn't called since he came back for the Bell's palsy, right? In 99. It had to be over 3 years that I would think. I mean, you have to look at every show, but I would think he called every pay-per-view between that stretch.
Yeah, I would think so, right? He comes back to do he
Mania.
Comes back to do Steve and Rock at 15, and I think he's pretty much the guy till whenever he leaves. 05.
Yeah.
Speaking of, it's funny, I just watched a video about Taboo Tuesday 05 and how Stone Cold was the one that was supposed to job to coach and all this, and he wasn't. It was a whole big mess, and that's why it transferred to Batista. Remember, they were built into because they were that was a whole JR, Mr. Heine, and all that.
Oh,
God. All that.
Yeah, we just covered that on War. Me and Marcus, that whole stretch is a real disaster. And we went in depth on that on a recent episode of War. It's every other Thursday about Mike Goldberg and all that, how they were going to hire him. And then Joey, they ended up getting Joey last minute.
Oh God, Mike Goldberg. Well, given how successful he was at NFL, it's a good thing that he didn't. That's the joke.
Well, they were getting him like a 5-year deal or whatever, and then he backed out and went back to UFC. So they had no one. So they ended up bringing Joey in for Taboo Tuesday for that one night, and then they got a long-term deal to become the voice of Raw, and then they shit can him by Mania. They send him off to ECW.
The purple brand.
Cole's like, I'm getting the F out of this.
Cole is very 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was Cole's like Frosted Tips run.
Glorious Frosted Tips Cole had at this time.
Yeah, so Shawn's, I forget he had this much sustained offense in the comeback here. I was thinking it was kind of beat down City, and then he makes the flash comeback win, but
Well, he hasn't done the table spot yet, so I think I think it's coming up in a minute.
Yeah, I think so.
I wonder how long term. We were talking earlier with when Herb was when JR, when you were doing Herb's notes, and we're talking about like long term. If Shawn wasn't coming back, or if Brock was not the guy, I wonder how this card would have looked. Would Triple H have just fought Taker again or something? Like, would Rock have been the champ? Would he have changed the belt at Vengeance anyway? Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they would have done. I mean, I think Brock was pretty much pinned as the guy since Mania, so I think he wins either way. I don't know. Yeah, Triple H. I don't know who he fights. But do you do like a Hogan rematch? Well, Hogan's gone, so I guess not. I don't know. One final thing with Jericho, maybe, but he's pretty much, they're both heels. Him and Flair before starting Evolution, maybe. Maybe they fight and then Flair joins them.
Well, yeah, because him and Jericho had just had that cell at Judgment Day, so you're not going to do that.
Yeah,
again.
So they're pretty much done. And RVD's fighting Benoit, right?
Yeah. Maybe have RVD. Nah, because he would have already beaten. Brock was winning the belt, so that's.
Yeah, Eddie. You could do something with Eddie instead. If you don't do Eddie Edge, you could do Eddie Triple H or Edge Triple H. They hadn't really done that before.
No. Taker Test. That match wasn't terrible.
I guess you could do Taker Triple H King of the Ring rematch.
It's weird. The roster was just in an odd state of flux. Like they had all these studs, but not a lot of them.
But on this show, they somehow pieced it all together.
Yeah.
Like it hit, like they for that one night, they puzzle pieces came together fine. Well, it's crazy. Like Big Show's not even on this card, and then he wins the belt in 2 months or whatever.
Yeah. He's on camera because he's around a lot on Raw in between.
Yeah, he's doing the Dirty from New York stuff and all that crap.
Yeah,
he's like Big Show muscle.
Yeah, Big Show's at WWF New York. I remember at WrestleMania 18 because remember when he had that WrestleMania match with Cody. Cody was playing up all Big Show's losses for WrestleMania, and he played the WWF New York club. And I remember Big Show going that club, WrestleMania, baby, woo!
Yeah, and then he just says like that whole year he doesn't do anything really. Well, he joins the NWO, but he's kind of a goof in the NWO.
Well, they kick him, and then when Shawn comes in, they kick him out. Oh, no, that's Booker. They kick out.
Yeah, but it's pretty much like Booker beats Big Show. The whole thing's a mess.
And at this point,
I think it's the year before when he teams with Billy as Double Trouble Crap on a Stick. I think so.
Yeah, it's 2000. I don't care if your name's Double Trouble Crap on a Stick. Well, we got to also take into account what if Steve doesn't leave.
It's a big what if here across the board. I mean, like there's so many things happen. Herb illustrated some of them. If things play out just a little differently. What if they drag the invasion to Mania? What if Austin stays heel, puts over RVD? What if they do Austin Hogan instead of Rock Hogan? What if they don't give Hogan the belt and Triple H keeps it? What if Triple H doesn't win the belt? They keep it on. It's like there's so many what ifs all throughout that year. Yeah, what if Austin stays? What if they don't merge the belt? Or what if they don't split the belts? What if they don't do the brand split? Like, what if they keep WCW? Like, and this is all realistic stuff. It's not like crazy stuff they could have done. It's all realistic.
Well,
options that they had.
It's funny if you check out the PTB Wrestling Network feed, the April episode of Through the Looking Glass, myself and Dave Hall, we actually do an alternate universe of 2001 into 2002 WCW. If we kind of say like if Fusion does buy them or a conglomerate and they stay on TNT and Nitro, we kind of build what WCW would look like in 2001, 2002, because obviously there'd be no TNA and stuff. But check it out. Great show. It's on our feed. I mean, you always wonder what, and I know there's been a lot of what ifs, and I'm surprised Herb didn't really allude to it. Maybe he did in his earlier notes in 2002. But we still really don't know why they didn't do Austin and Hogan at WrestleMania. You feel like that's just ready-made. The two guys, the guys the face of one era, the face of another era. And I don't know why. Because I could see why.
Wasn't it that Austin didn't want to do it? I thought it was that
Yeah.
Austin didn't want to fight him, right?
Austin was like paranoid that he wasn't going to go over. I think
he was definitely going to go. He was definitely going to go over. Why would Rock have gone over and not him go over? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
It was him. I think he vetoed it. I don't know if he thought it was going to suck. Like, I think he was just in a bad spot. I think in early 02.
Yeah, he was definitely not himself in 01-02.
Yeah. I think even Austin's admitted that he should have done the match with Hogan. So.
Oh yeah.
He was going to win. Yeah. He was going to win. So, because he was the face.
I don't know if it goes better. I mean, I don't know. Because it wouldn't have, I don't know. The magic of Rock slowly turning heel in the match. I guess Austin would have been just as good doing it, but he had just been a heel. I don't know. It would have been kind of weird. There you go.
The other thing, nice spot. See, now Triple H is used to bleeding because he's bleeding a lot better than fucking Shawn is.
It's all over.
I feel like it was all also a tone of the feud. Like, Rock and Hogan was a very serious feud with serious ramifications and everything. While as Austin pretty much spent a month drowning Scott Hall in fucking beer, tying him to ladders.
It's the worst stretch of Austin's career after
really
he became a star. It's like the biggest gross misuse of him is that few month stretch.
Yeah.
But even then, he still booked strong. I mean, he's strong at the Rumble. He's heavily protected at No Way Out. I mean, Jericho looks like an idiot. We joke with the Kukla Fran and Ali, NWO stooging around for him. So it's like, he really is booked pretty strong until they decide to go with Rock Hogan and not Austin Hogan. And then it kind of goes to shit from there.
He's feuding with Flair. Flair fucks him over in the Backlash match. And then now he's wrestling Show and Flair. And it's a mess.
Now, Justin, I appreciate that you made a Kukla, Fran, and Ali reference on this podcast.
Well,
you think I grew up with Scott with that reference?
But let me tell you something. If you go back to, I don't remember the episode number, but if you go back to our No Way Out 2002 Vintage Vault, I'm dying. We're like, yo, whoop or whatever.
It was. Those fucking Three Stooges, and it's got the promo in it. It's a good stuff buried in that show. I will say this match, I would say maybe 10 minutes too long. It was really hot with the beatdown. That first Shawn comeback should have went right into the table spot and out. I think under 20 would have been a little bit more effective for this. I think this last, like Triple H getting back on top into this, I think to me has dragged it a bit.
Oh, they want it. They want this super kick, baby.
He's lost a lot of blood.
Well, I definitely think Shawn wanted a ladder spot.
Yeah, this is all fine. They should have just went into it when he first made his first comeback, like 10 minutes ago. And there's the finish, the jackknife pin. And we're out. So, I mean, it still holds up. It's a great match. Crowd is into it. It's a great story work in the back. Shawn, battles through and finds a way to win. I think it's a little bit tighter if you take off that last stretch and just go into the brawl. When he first went outside and dove into him, spiked him into the stairs, because you even said, I think the table spot's coming. It should have been there. Then you get in the ring, Triple H teases the pedigree, he rolls him up and pins him. Like, I think that would have been better. But now, of course, you get the shot to the back, which I don't know if they did this, I'm guessing, to like cover in case Shawn didn't come back. They could explain away, well, Triple H ended his career for good with this sledgehammer attack, I'm guessing. And if he does come back, they can just say he's healed. I'm guessing that was the purpose of this attack after. And to build up with Triple H.
Pin, though. Like it was a good pin. Like it was good that Shawn, the crafty veteran, pulls the pin out of his ass. Like that's the way that it should have ended.
Yeah. The post-match is fine again to get the heat back on Triple H. And I do think they did it just in case Shawn is done. Like if he leaves this match and says, okay, I can't do anymore. Like this is it. My back is a mess. They could say, okay, well, we can use this and say Triple H ended his career again, right? If he comes back, you have it ready-made for the rest of the feud. So, all right. Oh, look, that was a fun rewatch for that match for sure, Greg. Thank you for picking that one. Thank you for joining us here on the Place to Be podcast. A lot of fun as always. Scott will be back in 2 weeks. We'll have another guest in the booth, another town. Hop in the car and matriculate on. Be sure to check out everything at the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed. Also here on the North South Connection YouTube channel and all of our social media to search North South Connection. You get tons of cool content. We have so much WrestleMania content. You can go back. It's all evergreen stuff. And then we have all more to come. So Greg, thanks for joining. Scott, talk to you in 2 weeks. Everyone take care. We're done.
Peace.